Welcome to the Inspire Views workshop series. Today we have Carla Gibson, who is going to share with us how we can forgive. She's got, what is it, Carla? 5 steps. I got rid of the thing. 5 steps to free yourself through forgiveness. And I don't know about you, but for me, forgiveness can be a challenging thing. So I'm really looking forward to this. And I hope that you all get a lot out of it. And if you're watching the recording, then make sure you have paper and pen handy because you're going to need it. So Carla is a past guest of mine on the Inspire View series. So if you haven't seen her interview, go ahead to CherriseBoucher.com/the Inspire View series or on my YouTube channel. And you can, oh man, can you hear it ringing?
Oh.
Could you hear it?
No.
Oh God, I thought you could hear it. Sorry, everybody. So we'll cut that part out. I'm going to go ahead and let Carla introduce herself a little bit to you, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. Go. Take it away, Carla.
Great. Thank you, Cherrise. And thank you so much for putting together this workshop and, just your commitment to bringing people messages and content that inspires them. I mean, I just think it's so great, and I just so appreciate you, and thank you so much for having me on your show again, and for really inspiring me to create this workshop, because I started in the healing arts, so to speak, about 9.5 years ago. I started out as a BEST practitioner. So BEST is short for bioenergetic synchronization technique, and it's a neuro-emotional technique where we basically integrate, your mind and your body so that your body isn't having inappropriate reactions to things that you're thinking about. The only reaction you should have in your body is if you go, ooh, look, a bear. Like, then your body should do stuff to get you away from the bear, But when exactly, right? Like, that's the appropriate response, right? The blood pressure should go up. Your breathing should, your shoulders should go up. Muscles should tense. That's what should happen. And so it's perfectly appropriate that our bodies respond to our thoughts. But in our modern world, we're less likely to encounter real bears, but we have lots and lots of imagined bears and lots of things that go on in our mind that create these responses over and over again in our body, and many of them are inappropriate. And so what happens for people over a long period of time is that they can get stuck in what we call defense physiology. So their muscles are tight, their blood pressure's high, they're using up sugar really quickly, or, they get to where they can't even get sugar into the cells at all. Like, there's defense physiology that happens because the body runs out of resources to handle, what's going on, because you're only supposed to be in defense physiology for a short amount of time. Once you run away from the bear, you can relax, you can, you don't have to use that. If you've ever seen a deer, if you've ever seen the deer feed in the evening, and you probably would have to watch them in a place where there's a lot of people. When I lived in Georgia, at Kennesaw Mountain, the deer come out at dusk to feed, and it's just so beautiful to watch because they're completely present. You can tell there's nothing about them that's anxious or worried, and I can't even know. You're like, okay, it's an animal. How do you know? There's this feeling. You just know because they are completely relaxed until they hear something that trips that emergency physiology. Like if you were to walk towards them really quickly,
right,
or if they hear something that's not right, then all of a sudden they go, like, you can just see they go on this alert. But when they're not experiencing any danger and they're not worried, they're just completely serene and amazing. And that's how we're supposed to live our life. So I don't know about you, Cherrise, but in my life, it takes something to get to serene. It takes something to get to peaceful. It's not like I live my whole life in peace and serenity, and then all of a sudden I just have a stress. What's happened in the modern life, what's happened for me, is that I spend lots of time being stressed and, having a lot of physiology in my body, like my muscles are tight, or I'm worried. I'm spending a lot of time in my head thinking about what I'm going to do, what's going to happen next. And serenity are like little bits, little moments that I find, that I have to actually work for.
Right.
So, I don't know. Is that just me, or is it like it?
No, it has to be intentional. It's not a natural state of being. It's an intentional state of being, I think, that whole serenity thing. You're like, okay, I'm going to be serene now.
Right.
You have to do it. It's not,
Yeah, it's like another, and for women especially, it's another thing in our to-do list. Like, okay, relax. I'm relaxing on Monday at 2:45,
Exactly.
but only if my other meeting doesn't go late, and only if, and it's like, it's something that we have to schedule, that we have to do, instead of waking up in the morning and being like, I'm going through my day serene and relaxed, no matter what happens, no matter what comes up, unless there's actually a physical threat. If I all of a sudden see a man with a gun, serenity is okay for it to go away for a little while I take care of that. But then as soon as that man has been taken care of and he's gone and I'm no longer under threat, like, serenity should come back in an instant. So, the reality is that for most of us, it doesn't happen that way. And, there are many practices that have been developed over thousands of years that just tell us that as humans, the system is perfect. It's helped us survive all these years. But even thousands of years ago, they had to invent yoga so that monks could sit in silence, right? Like, they had to know that they had to move the body. They had to, do something to make the body ready to really be serene and peaceful. So in the modern world, there's lots of thoughts. We have, I've seen many different numbers, over 150,000 thoughts a day. And you can imagine that if they're all creating physiology in our body, and if, let's just say 70% of that physiology is inappropriate, it's not really necessary, it's not really a threat, then you can understand why a lot of times at some point in our life, whether you're a young person or an older person, you hit these periods in your life where you're just tired and you can't, it doesn't seem to matter what you do, you can't seem to ever get ahead of this feeling of like a fatigue or chronic thing, or maybe you're not physically tired, but you have places in your life where you just can't get a break. Like, you just can't make a change. And maybe that might be in a relationship, that might be in your career, it might be in your body and your health. There might be things that you've wanted to create for your body for years that you just can't break through. And so my mission, now I'm trained as a chiropractor, and I provide services to my members in Triad Health Alliance, which is a private member organization that I created so that I could help people access healthcare in a different way. And so through my services there, I really help people understand what needs to be supported for them to have true transformation in any area of their life, in your health, in your happiness, in your success, in your relationships, your finances, I struggle a little bit with naming it, because it's not separate. If you're having a stress in your business, it's probably on some level affecting your relationship. Maybe not immediately, but how many times are we in a long-term relationship, we're in a stressful job, and then, we're being a certain way because of the stressful job, and then we find out later, like, oh, now the relationship is in stress too, or vice versa, especially if I was a stay-at-home mom, and so I really loved my job as a mom. That was all I wanted to do. I stayed home for 10 years with my kids, but there was stresses involved, and I was so fortunate to find this work and to, find ways to take care of myself. Luckily, there were moms ahead of me that were like, look, you have to take care of yourself. And I had no idea what they meant, because I'd never taken care of myself before I had babies, right? Like, that wasn't part of the conversation on what you should do as a woman to be healthy. Like, go take care of yourself. It was like, have a spa day, when I came from a middle-class upbringing, and like a spa day was like a luxury. That was something you got when you made it. You didn't get it along the way to help you make it. And, now we can realize that for most women, heart disease is our number one enemy. I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but many women die every year from heart attack. It's the number one killer of women. And for 2/3 of women who suffer from a heart attack, their first symptom is death. So think about that. Okay, now that's what the CDC says. And in my recent newsletter, I just said, I call bullshit. The first symptom was not death. There were symptoms. There were things that were going on in those women's lives, but they weren't attended to. They weren't recognized as things that needed their attention and that they needed pampering, that they needed to make changes in their life. They were probably things that, oh, I'm getting older, everybody has that. Oh, I'm under a lot of stress, so of course I'm tired. Oh, I don't eat well and I'm lazy and I don't exercise, so of course I probably don't feel well. Like, it was probably, for some of them, it was made like, oh, there's something wrong with them, and it was one more thing that they couldn't do right, or whatever their message was. And, for others, it could have been like they went to the doctor and said, wow, I really don't feel well. Like, what's going on? And the doctor says, maybe a label. Chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, thyroid, your thyroid's not working. So the big thing that's missing for me in healthcare is why. Why does your thyroid just stop working? What is it about? And it doesn't matter what condition you have or you suffer with. There's three things that are contributing to your lack of health, and that's going to be something's wrong with the actual structure, like the actual organ is damaged, or your spine is damaged, not letting the nerves talk to the organ. There's a chemical imbalance. We are bombarded by chemicals and things in our environment that we can't control. We breathe them in, we touch them, they're in our food we don't know. There's all that. Plus there's the biochemical stress. When there's an imbalance anywhere in the body, your body's making more acid and doing things that it has to compensate for. And then there's emotions, and there's how you feel and how you think. And it just really, I really got it this week. For years we've been calling it mind-body medicine. Last time I checked, my head is right here, my brain's inside, and it's on top of it's connected. Look, I don't go at night it's not like, oh, now I got to do something with my mind. Why is that? Why is it that in our society, mind-body medicine is separate? So that's kind of, right? It's not mind, mind body.
Your body. It's
it's body medicine, and guess what? Your brain is part of your body, and your brain is what creates your thoughts, and your thoughts create physiology. And you can go as far if you want to get woo about it. It's not woo. It's actually true. Your thoughts create your reality, because how you think about something is what you actually experience. Right. So that brings us to why I was so excited to do a forgiveness workshop. See, you didn't know where I was going with that, did you? Off on her thing. Here's the thing, it is all connected. So many of us were taught that forgiveness is just something on our to-do list, right? From a very young child. And because you're a young child, you can't think, judge, or reason. Your frontal cortex doesn't develop until you're 7 years old or so. If you doubt that, hang out with a kid who's 7 and you'll get it. You'll see. I remember when my youngest daughter was getting to that age, I'm like, oh God, here comes the frontal cortex, right? All of a sudden, it's not only they spend the previous 4 years asking why, but they don't really, they're not, there's more they want more information because they're still feeling and seeing what's safe, what's not safe. How do I navigate these big people so I live? That's kind of their mission. Right. But right around 6, 7, 8, the whys start to be a different quality of why, and they start telling you why. Well, Mom, this is how it works. Mom, this is what's going to happen, because all of a sudden they're getting this neocortex, this frontal that can think, judge, and reason, and they've got a lot of evidence about how the world works, and they're going to tell you. Mm-hmm. And for most of us, whatever our experience was, that's how our reality is shaped. Whatever it took for us to survive in the world, whatever it took for us to gain love and to feel affection, and in some cases to eat and be fed, to have all our basic needs met, whatever our experience was with that, is kind of how we end up seeing the world, Yeah. And so, and that doesn't mean that it's bad, right? I'm not saying if you had a bad experience, you end up seeing the world as bad. Because the cool thing is that for some people, if you have a quote unquote bad or intense or upsetting experience, you end up seeing the world with compassion. Mm-hmm. You end up seeing the world with love. So there's this whole concept that, judgment is really what creates suffering. If you judge what's happened to you as bad, then it's bad, and that's what you create more bad. Because you set yourself up to expect bad. Right. Because you know how to survive that, right? This part of your brain back here that had to get you from born to 7 years old till you could start making judgments about people and what to do and decisions to make and start learning more facts, had to just take notes and go how do I survive as a body? And it had to do that. And so, whatever that was, it didn't think, judge, or reason. It really just said yes, no. It said survive, not survive. It didn't really make a judgment of, well, that guy over there, he's a really nice guy, but he's only dangerous when he drinks. Mm. If you had a parent who is an alcoholic or somebody in your world who they seem really great, and then all of a sudden they turn on you. Mm-hmm. You didn't have the capacity to go, oh yeah, Dad's just having a rough day at work and he's concerned because everybody's getting laid off and he might be next. As a little child, you can't do that. It's right. One day Dad is safe and loving and kind, and the next day Dad is dangerous, and your physical body has to adapt to that for you to survive. And so you you get used to that. And part of that shapes, how you see people in the world, like forever, until you do something to reprogram that, to make sure that your physical body can be integrated with your mental body. Oh, look, they're separate. They are separate. Oh my gosh, that's kind of one of the reasons why we have it, that they're separate, right? Is because they develop separately. Your body grows and your mind develops later. So maybe that's why we have it, that it's two different systems, but it's not. So, but there's some integration that has to happen, right? So in the realm of forgiveness, when we're young, we might go to church, or we might just be in our family, and we're having it, we're having experiences with people, and we'll probably get mad. And at some point, we'll probably have the feeling of anger or disappointment or mistrust or, hurt. Like, we might have some of these feelings, and the big people around us, we cry, we express emotions because that's all we got. Around age 3, you start to experience every human emotion that you're ever going to have, but you have no way to judge it or to understand it, or you just feel it. So if you've ever hung out with a 3-year-old, you will, you'll get like, oh, that's why they're the way they are. It's not that they're terrible. It's not that they're, whatever. They just really have a bunch of emotions and input and don't know how to handle them. They're developing. So, you have these emotions that happen: anger, hurt, disappointment, mistrust. And the big person comes along and says, oh, you have to forgive that person.
Right.
Oh, it's okay. Oh, they didn't mean it. Right. So they're giving you facts. They're giving you this information that you can't quite get on the conscious level, on this, factual level. But the feeling of it gets really important, right? It's really significant. Like if your parent or guide, whoever the adult is stressed about you being stressed, then the message you might get is like, it is not safe to be hurt or angry or disappointed, and you must forgive people, and you're a bad person if you don't. Like, the volume may be really high on that. Mm-hmm. And if you happen to be in a space, if the adults around you are in the space of where they can be patient, they recognize what's going on for you, and they can be supportive, then you might get a message like, oh, I understand you're hurt. You might actually get heard. You might actually get heard first. And then, but my guess is for most of us, ultimately it comes down to, yes, I hear you, you're hurt, and you need to forgive. It's like, and for you to be a great person, you need to forgive.
Yeah.
And then you go to church maybe, or you get into school, or whatever, you read stories and books, and you really get the message that forgiveness, that it's a should. If you really should forgive, this would be really good for you to forgive. Now, the reality is that it's a truth. There is a truth of forgiveness, that it actually does make you feel better. It actually is for you. But just like many truths that get communicated to children and that we try to steep, people in before they can have an experience and talk about it, it just becomes cliche or trite. You should just forgive that person. Oh, I'm sorry you're suffering. Well, just forgive them. It'll be fine. Okay, so yes, if you've gone through the process of forgiving somebody, truly forgiving somebody, you will want to tell that to other people too, because it is really phenomenal. You'll be like, oh my gosh, you're in so much pain now. But when you forgive them, you're going to feel so much better. And it's going to be really hard for you to tell the person who's in pain that, for them to hear you, and you're coming from this place of like, no, really, it's going to be great. And they're like, no, it sucks, and I'm never going to forgive them, and it's bad. And the only thing that's missing is that this person who's been hurt and is upset and is in anger and upset, they actually physiologically can't hear you. Mm. No, they really can't. And even the small child who's upset, they're physiologically can't hear you either. They're actually just listening for you to find out if they're safe or not, having the feelings they're having. And if it's safe, they keep having the feelings. And if it's not safe, they may change what they're doing, but then they get like, okay, I'm doing this because it just keeps me safe. They don't ever really get that feeling handled. It just sort of gets compensated for so that they can survive, right? So I just want to that was like a lot of information. Forgiveness workshops, I can do a whole weekend seminar on forgiveness. I have like a 3-day weekend intensive that people can come to here. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona now, and I do weekend intensives for individuals and groups. And so it really is a concept that we could explore in depth for hours and hours. But since we only have a little bit of time, what I'd really like to do for people watching today is give them an experience of what this is really like in their body and in their life.
Yeah. And also, Can I just point on something?
Yeah.
Because I find this to be true myself, and I'm sure, I'm not the only person out there who thinks that. Okay, and we hear this definition of forgiveness. Like, forgiveness doesn't mean you're condoning what somebody did.
Right.
Because that's where I get stuck, and I know I get stuck there. I know how you're supposed to think about it, but how I feel about it is that if I forgive them, I'm saying it's okay that they did what they did.
Right. Well, so here's the thing, right? And that's where we get stuck, because it's not okay. Like, whatever happened to you, whatever you had to go through, it's not okay. But we have to remember what okay means, right? So okay actually just means neutral. Doesn't mean you prefer it. It doesn't mean that's what you wanted to happen. It doesn't mean you're going to let it happen again. It just means that you're okay with that it happened, that you are neutral about it, that when you think about the fact that it happened, you don't have upset or anger or re-injury. Like, there's nothing, there's a void, basically. There's nothing there. And so if we talk about what the definition of forgiveness actually is, forgiveness means giving as before. So if you get somebody in your mind who you maybe have an upset with,
Mm-hmm.
and you think about, why you're even with that person, or why, and so you might have to think at a big level, right? Because it could be an experience you have. It could be like you're mad at the government for something, right? But the reality is that when we first come into contact with somebody, we are pretty open.
Mm-hmm.
We're willing to be in relationship with them, whatever that looks like. We're willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. We're willing to believe that there's an opportunity for us and for them in whatever we're going to create together.
Right.
And like I said, this can be on the micro level of like, you meet, you fall in love, everything's wonderful. You think that they hung the moon, and you're totally open, right? Like, you love them. Like, even if like they like snort like every night or whatever, like they like, they make like these awful noises. You're like, oh, it's so cute, right? Like, you're just open to like loving them in the face of whatever.
Yeah.
And that's the commitment that you make, right? And if you look on in the macro level, like when you come into the world and, okay, now I live in the United States, and okay, there's a president, and you're like, as a kid, they remember like, oh, the president was so amazing. Like, oh my gosh, the country is powerful. I want to be just like when I grew up. And like, you just love that person because they're the president. Now, you're because again, you can't make a judgment. So for us to try to teach little kids, like, okay, now we have to know what that president stands for and what they actually did, and it doesn't work because I can't make that judgment anyway. So it's an emotional decision. Right? And then all of a sudden, fast forward to 35 years later, and you're paying way more taxes than you want to pay, and you think back to the last 5 presidents and go like, oh my God, if they would have made these decisions, then I wouldn't have to pay these taxes. Like, right? So now all of a sudden your willingness to like be like, the president is awesome and he's so powerful, and let me just like when I grew up is like, ugh, that guy lied, he said this to get elected, now he doesn't. So like, you're no longer willing to be in like this relationship with the president the way you were like before.
Right?
Like, you're not willing to be open and just trust that like whatever he's doing is like for the people, for the United States, and that
right.
You're just not willing to do that. And then you're in your micro relationship, you go with this person and you love them, and then they do stuff, and all of a sudden you get to like, oh no, I can't love that. That stole all my love. There's so like there's a scale, like, you have love, and then they hurt you a little bit. No, I can still love. Then the hurt all of a sudden tips the scale, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, no, I'm not willing. No longer willing to love and be like, that's great and whatever. So again, forgiveness doesn't mean that you go back and go, okay, everything you did was great, fine, a little bit. When we get to the 5 steps, it's good for you, Cherrise. It's gonna be like, oh gosh, I gotta go there. But this isn't for them, right? This is to restore you to a place of wholeness where you can give as if you're nothing but love. As if whatever's happened to you has been for your greatest good, has been exactly the way it needed to happen, and that you actually gained something from the experience versus remaining in the place where you're hurt, where something's missing, where you're upset, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the big key, and that's like with everything, that concept of, well, the way I learned it as a kid and the way it actually is now and how it affects me. There's a lot of that. You can look at that in spirituality. You can look at that in the realm of food. You can find that in a lot of places. And, it's just, we have lived, and if you look at our history as a people over the last 100,000, couple thousand years, we have been a survival oriented society. Like, we have had to work really hard to be here.
Mm-hmm.
We've had to survive, and we have had to make decisions in order to survive. And when you look at history, you see periods of like the Renaissance, right? Where all of a sudden survival wasn't so hard. And then people had time to create art and create music and have conversations and have different ideas, because it wasn't about like, oh my gosh, will there be food on the table tomorrow?
Right.
Oh my gosh, is someone going to like ride into our village and burn it tonight? We're going to be dead in the morning, right? Like those things.
Right.
They still happen in the world.
They do, yeah.
But that's the kind of survival. If you're living in that kind of atmosphere where your survival is at stake, I don't know. I've heard, I haven't traveled myself, but I've had people say and read a lot of books that say that when you travel to cultures where they're not as wealthy as us, like they really are still in a survival mode, right? It's all about doing some repetitive farming or something every day just to eat, and there's never enough. A lot of people report that the people in those cultures are really happy.
Yeah.
So I gotta say that the flip side might be true. When you are in a survival mindset and there's nothing else, you probably find less reasons to be upset with people. I mean, there's less to lose. Certainly there's still cruelty and there's still things that happen, but like, if you're every day, you're just waking up going like, oh my gosh, I get an extra piece of bread today. This is great. Like, if you have that level of gratitude, then maybe even the worst cruelties don't stay with you very long, because, at the end of the day, we're survival organisms and we love to survive.
Right.
So if you look at our history over, it's really kind of probably like this whole concept of needing to forgive somebody is probably like a really new, relatively radical and new phenomenon, because in the past, you probably didn't need to forgive them. They're probably dead before, like got eaten or sorted or got, mangled in a machine. Like something else happened where it probably got really easy to forgive them.
And you just feel bad for them. You're like, oh shit.
Yeah, you're like, oh wow, they were a jerk yesterday, but today you're good. Okay, like I'm making it really simple, but in the grand scheme of things, and that's also why the whole concept of forgiveness gets a little bit trite or a little bit whatever, is because there have been so many other obstacles to overcome for our mere survival for thousands of years, and now we are kind of in this last 100 years, 150 years of the Industrial Revolution. Like, we are in such a place of our basic needs are met so readily.
Right.
And yes, I know people are still starving, and I know that it's not easy readily, right? Like people, sometimes it's the things that other people have that cause them stress that they don't have, right? And it's thinking about things differently. So that's where you can get into a whole lot of like upset, regret, disappointment. Stuff happens, things happen, and you can walk around with that. And so at the end of the day, the only reason to go through this process that I'm going to share with you today is for you, right? The other guy, the person, the government, they don't need your forgiveness, at least not on the physical level. Like on the energetic level, it probably blesses them and it probably blesses the world. And but we don't have to be on that level. Like, you don't have to be Gandhi. You don't have to be Jesus. Like, you can be. That's an option, right? Like, but it takes work, right? Like, if you want to sit in the yoga room and meditate for 5 hours a day, you probably could forgive anybody.
Probably.
Maybe not Cherrise. Cherrise may still like pissed off.
I don't know. It depends what I'm thinking about.
She's like, no, but now I gotta meditate for 5 hours. If you were
I'm pissed that I have to meditate for 5 hours.
Right? Like, but I mean, that's the level of presence that it takes to get to the point. We have to take so much now to get everything that's coming at us so quickly out of our face, so we can go like, oh, that thing happened and it's over, and things might have been good, might have been bad, and we don't have a conversation for it or a structure for it in our society either. We like some religions do. Like, I was raised Catholic, and there was confession.
Right.
But I can remember doing that, and the way I had it, confession was I went and said all the things I did wrong and hoped that God and the priest were going to forgive me. Very different concept of if we had confession where you actually sat with a person talked about what you were upset about, realized that you being upset about it was actually harming you, keeping you from being connected to your higher power, or keeping you from being connected to other people and serving in the world, and then had a conversation to complete that hurt so that you could go on and be you, whatever you like, the hands and feet of God. You could be love for other people, and there'd be nothing between you and love for whoever needed it. So that's a real different context for confession, and that's probably was the intent of it. But again, if you're teaching 8-year-olds about confession, you're going to be like, you did stuff, did you like eat an extra cookie, or did you steal something, or did you have unclean thoughts, and like you should come and tell somebody, and then they're going to absolve you of all your sins. Well, so there's like a lot of different ways that you might have it that forgiveness is. So I'm just going to give you a new way. So, does anybody have any questions so far?
We're good.
Good. All right, great. So let's just shift for a minute. Let's just, take a minute to like breathe all that in. If you need to pause this for a minute, like run to the bathroom, or, like I'm going to take a sip of water because I've talked before.
Yeah, I've got water too.
Because this tells me how
together. Cheers.
And then just make yourself comfortable. I mean, this is great if you're not on the video, then you can actually just like lay down if you want to, just get in a quiet place and, close your eyes and just take a big deep breath. And what I want you to notice about that breath is I want you to notice, did that breath come easy? Was that breath difficult? To take that breath, did you actually find yourself like lifting your shoulders up to get a breath in, or were you easily able to drop into your belly? Go ahead and take another breath. See what this breath is like. As you breathe in with this breath, now that I've made you aware, you might notice like, oh, there's a tight spot in my shoulder. Oh, I've been clenching my feet while she talks about all this stuff. Or, I've been holding tension somewhere in my body just thinking about all the people that I have to forgive, And just take some big deep breaths and just breathe into that tension and just feel it. Now I just want you to examine for a minute your belief about forgiveness. I gave a few examples of what people think forgiveness is or how you might have learned it, but what's really there for you? What do you really believe about forgiveness? What's your experience of forgiveness? How's it been for you? Just notice what comes up. Take some big, deep breaths in and out of your belly. Just allow yourself to relax. As you're thinking about your experience of forgiveness, try to recall the first time in your life where you were told you should forgive somebody. Or where you had an experience where forgiveness, may have been the remedy or may have been suggested, or where you might have just decided to forgive. It doesn't have to be a bad experience. It could be a great experience. Just really take some deep breaths and see how far back in your mind you can travel to needing an experience of forgiveness or to being told about forgiveness. How far back did you go? Was it yesterday? Was it last week? Maybe it's all the way back to your teenage years. Maybe you can go back further and remember something that happened in grade school. Maybe if you go back really far, maybe you can remember the first time you were upset with a parent. Maybe there was something your mom or your dad said or did. Or maybe it was something they didn't do. Maybe they didn't protect you. Maybe they didn't treat you the way they were supposed to treat you. Maybe they just weren't there. So just search around and find an experience or a person that when you think about it, there's still something there for you. There's an upset, a sadness, a grief, an anger. Oh my gosh, I don't want to think about that person. Yeah, I've forgiven them, but let's just see what's there for you. Take a couple more deep breaths in and out. Then I want you to just very gently wiggle your fingers and toes. Go ahead and gently open your eyes. This would be a good time to take out your piece of paper that you have handy and your pen. And let's just make a list. Just the first things that pop in your mind. You don't have to judge it. You don't have to go, well, maybe I forgive them, maybe I didn't. Just make a list. We're going to just set a little timer here for about 2 minutes. And I just want you to write down as many people or experiences that you can think of where you might need some forgiveness, where you still feel an upset or there's just an unease, a dis-ease in your body when you think about something that happened or you think about another person, even if you think you've handled it, even if you're like, yeah, I forgave them 30 years ago, it's great, it's over. If you still like roll your eyes as you're saying it, I want them to go on your list. So, Cherrise, are you going to do this? Go ahead and play, because
I will.
Interact a little bit.
I'm not like, I'm going to do it on a Word document because that's what I have up here.
Perfect. Now I'm just watching the clock and just giving you all the time you need. And of course, if you're watching the replay, the benefit is you can pause us and take as much time as you need. So there's about 30 more seconds. This little 2 minutes. And again, don't censor yourself. Just keep writing. Put it down. If it turns out you did forgive them, we can cross it off later. Just write as many people, situations as you can. And that's about 2 minutes. So you can go ahead and stop. But I encourage you to keep adding to your lists. In my practice, we use lists a lot. It's something I learned from the Mortars and bioenergetic synchronization technique, is that there's just something about even the process of making the list that reorganizes your brain in a way that it might be holding on to trapped energy, or it might be holding on to an adaptation, for a hurt or something that happened. And as soon as you kind of externalize it and get on the list, your brain is amazing. It wants to survive, and it wants to do it as efficiently as possible. And if you write something down that it can reorganize, it can go, oh, wait a minute, why am I worried about that? There's probably, if you make a list of 50 things, there's probably 35 of them that just go away just because you put them on the list. Mm-hmm. And then the other 15, we have processes, we have things we can do to deal with them, and what you free up around that, what the energy that you're holding around those last few things can be so powerful and can just make all the difference to how you show up in the world and what you do. So that's why this is called freedom through forgiveness, because it's not really about that you have to, go and have conversations with people, or that you're going to have to, it's not like one more thing for you to do. This is really about finding where you're holding on to energy to maintain some old hurt or some old protection, some old way that you were surviving, that when we shift that for you, you don't have to do that anymore, and then that energy can be used for whatever you want. And that's how you really create freedom, is that you free it up. You free up the energy, you free up the resources, you free up your ideas and how you think and look at the world, so that you can go off and do whatever you want to do in the world. So, okay, great. So Cherrise, how many things in just that short 2 minutes, how many people or experiences, how many do you have on your list?
8.
8. All right. So just in 2 minutes, Cherrise thought of 8 things that she needed to forgive. So when you look at the list as a whole, Cherrise, what comes up for you? What do you notice about that?
I think like being on the spot. Let's see. What comes up? It's all relationship things.
Oh, how about that?
That I listed. It's all people.
People.
It's all people.
If we just didn't have to interact with those darn other people, it would be great, right? Like, it's always the people.
Yeah, I don't have to forgive a bear. There was no
Right.
bear.
The bear's just being a bear. The bear just comes, and like, I probably disturbed something of theirs, or they're just protecting their cubs. They're not really like mean or anything. They're just bears.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's awesome. Cool. So, however many people you have on your list, just notice what happens when what happened in your body when you thought of those people. What came up. So, Cherrise, if you had to put words, just to 2 or 3 things that came up for you as you were writing that, what were the sensations or the feelings or the ideas, that came up for you?
Let's see. I'd say there's some mistrust.
Okay.
I think that's a big one. Hurt feelings kind of goes around the mistrust part.
Wow. And is there anywhere in your body where you feel like you're holding that? Like there's a tension or a stress in your actual physical body when you all that?
I'd probably say kind of in my stomach area.
Okay. Yeah. And that makes so much sense because when you need to fight a bear, digestion is the first thing to go. Your actual stomach, people go, oh, I feel it in my stomach. The reason is that actually that's the first place that loses blood supply when we go into defense physiology. So this is the reason too why so many people have, IBS, a GI thing, and they think it's just that. It's really it's hard to heal that if you're always in a defense physiology and your body never gets nutrients and blood flow and the proper motility that it needs to digest, because your body again thinks you're fighting a bear all the time, and it's like, okay, I'll just get enough nutrients to survive, and then the rest of it will go on the honey-do list, and then eventually we'll get rid of that, but we can't right now because if the bear eats me, I don't need nutrients. It's just a simple system. So great. So you notice that feeling in your stomach. So let's just talk for a minute about the 5 steps of forgiveness. So this is a 5-step process that I learned from Dr. M.T. Morter Jr. He was the creator of bioenergetic synchronization technique and a dear mentor of mine. He passed away a couple years ago, but his sons still run Morter Health Systems, and BEST is still the foundation of my practice, although I've added several other modalities that I just feel like, I feel like your body is like this nervous system has windows, and it's like a big building, and it's like the more windows I can crawl through to get in and upgrade things, the better. And so that's why I do a lot of different things. But the forgiveness steps are still just foundational practice for everybody, and I love teaching about that. And in fact, I think the reason we created this was that a few weeks ago in my office, I have a meetup group that meets every Wednesday night, and I just kind of pulled it off the top of my head, and we did all these great interactive processes together that just shifted and transformed these ladies in ways that they were just blown away. And that's why I thought, oh, this forgiveness stuff, it's so key, it's so foundational.
It is.
So there's a few things that we probably would not be comfortable to do in this setting, or because it's just 2 of us. But, I'll just say again that if you really want to take on some huge transformation or some big thing in your life, then, get in touch with me. Let's put together a group experience for you, like a weekend or.
Yeah, let's all go to Phoenix.
Yeah, it's great. You can get here really cheap right now because it's going to be 113 today. But we've got air conditioning, so it's good. And pools. We got swimming pools. But yeah, you just come to the desert for a couple days and we'll really turn up the volume on this. But for today, what we're going to do is we're going to just go through the 5 steps of forgiveness, and we'll just see what comes up. We'll see what you need around that, because the truth is that, whatever you might already be doing modalities. I know, do you do some EFT, Cherrise? You use EFT? And
only if I talk to our friend.
Okay.
Not on my own.
Okay. So you have friends and practitioners that you do EFT with.
Right.
Yeah, that's great. So, and then there's other people. Other people meditate. Some people pray. Some people exercise. Some people use exercise. There's a lot of different ways that you can move through these uncomfortable emotions and move this energy for yourself. But there's a power in being aware of it, and there's a power of getting a perspective on it that you had before. And the techniques that I use in my online sessions and in the office are meant to, again, do that integration between the body and the mind, the body and the thought. Get the thought present with the body and like get you into present time consciousness. Like, oh yeah, this is the thought and this is the word, but this is what's really happening right now. What's happening right now is that I'm sitting in a room by myself and there's nothing to mistrust.
Right.
Okay, technology. We could realize that the Zoom could just go out any minute. Like that creates a huge level of mistrust. But in general, in this present moment, there is no reason for you to have mistrust of anybody because they're not there.
Right.
Right. So that's what the techniques are. So we'll see what comes up around that. But let's talk about the 5 steps of forgiveness. So the first step of forgiveness is forgiving the other person. And this is where most of us were taught as a kid, just forgive them, forget, let it go. And that's where it ends, right? Okay, fine, I forgive them. And then we move on.
Just words.
Yeah, it's just words. And maybe you get the feeling, maybe you truly get to like, okay, whatever they did was stupid. I love them anyway, right? But it's just like it might not be complete as a process for us. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it is. Mm-hmm. Like somebody bumps into you at the grocery store with a cart, and you go like, they go, oh, sorry. And you go, oh, no problem. Like, it's complete, right? You don't really have to use the 5 steps of forgiveness for that. There's probably a gift for you there if you did. There's probably something there for you if you use that. So the first step is forgiving the other person. And it would probably be great for you guys to write these down because it didn't occur to me to, maybe we'll make a handout or something. I have the handout, so maybe we can post that with the video or whatever. Yeah. But write them down. It's good for your brain for you to write things.
I'm writing too.
So the second step of forgiveness is to give the other person permission to forgive you. So Cherrise, what's that bring up for you? And just when you just hear that, what's the first thing that popped into your mind?
What the hell do I need forgiveness for? They're the one that did it.
Exactly. What in the world do I need to be forgiven for? That's ridiculous.
Within this frame, I'm sure there's plenty of stuff out there, but the thing is, the point to that too is that many people don't even realize, like, I don't know if there's something that somebody needs to forgive me for, I could be throwing shit out there all over the place. I have no idea that it's affecting somebody. Yeah. So it's the same with whoever we feel that affected us, like my list. So they probably don't think anything of it. It's me. It's stuck in my head.
Yeah. And, every situation has an occurring for the other person. So the way it occurred for you was that they betrayed you or they let you down. Mm-hmm. The way it occurred for them was that maybe you weren't being whatever they expected you to be, and that's why they let you down. Or, you know what I mean? Like there's part in there where they're also holding on to something that you did that caused the whole situation.
Right.
And so giving them permission to forgive whatever that was. Again, this isn't something you have to call them up and go, hey, guess what? I give you permission to forgive me. Remember that thing that happened like 20 years ago? Like, I give you permission to forgive me now, okay? Thanks. Like, it's not that. But it occurred to me the other day, there might be another way to look at this step. And it may be to say to yourself, in this situation, what is it that I'd like to be acknowledged for? So you can just kind of write that in, what is it that I would like to be acknowledged for? Because that's the same thing as the other person forgiving you, right? If they, you have an upset, let's just say it's a fight, right? Let's say you're fighting over the last piece of pie, right? And you want the last piece of pie and the other person wants the llast piece of pie, and there's a disagreement over who gets the last piece of pie, and then all of a sudden the other person grabs it and just takes it and eats it, and then now, you're upset because you can't trust them. They didn't follow the rules, and there's no way to make you whole. Like you have to get a whole other pie, or all you can do is forgive. Like that's the situation, right? So, okay, I forgive the other person for eating the pie, and then the other person is like, okay, well, I forgive you for arguing with me over the pie, and not just letting me have it. That could be how they could forgive you. But the other thing could be that, okay, I could acknowledge you, for like letting it go. Right? Or I could acknowledge you for being so passionate about pie. Like that was really awesome that you cared enough about the pie that you wanted the last piece. Like it could be anything. So this is just a concept that occurred to me out of another process that I've been working with recently. So I'll just encourage you guys to play with that one.
Mm-hmm.
The thing on the energetic level, it's where the juice in this process is. I used to think the juice comes in the later steps, but now that I have this expanded perspective of, really like what the 30,000 foot view is in the bigger picture, and how what really causes upset for us is that we're not acknowledged, that if we get heard and if we get seen and if people really get us, it's so much easier to forgive and let go.
Right.
Like forgiveness is easy as soon as we felt hurt. And in fact, yesterday we went to see Through the Looking Glass, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but when you go see Through the Looking Glass, that's a big theme in that movie. It was beautiful, and maybe I was just crying.
Oh, geez, crying.
Yeah, well,
my daughter saw it already, and I was like, "What? What'd you go see it for?" I said, "Because I am a huge fan of Alice in Wonderland, one of my favorite books."
I thought this one was better.
Through the Looking Glass. Both books I read, like ages ago.
Well, you just got to take yourself, girlfriend. You got to go on a little girl date, and take it, and because it was really phenomenal. And I hated the first one that he did. I was like, I'm never gonna see this. But I think we just felt gypped by the 3D effects weren't that great. But this one was really good, and it had all these great themes about you can do the impossible, and you can't change time, but you can learn from it, and then something about forgiveness and how you can. Anyway, it was just beautiful. It's just beautiful. This whole concept, step 2 of forgiveness, of like allowing the other person to forgive you, which you could also see as allowing them to acknowledge, what would you like to be acknowledged for in that situation? And then we go on to step 3. And step 3 is forgiving yourself. Now, sometimes this is another one where, our defenses come, me, what did I do? Okay, so there's a couple things you can forgive yourself for. As we just said, there's ways that you were being in that situation that may also have been, made the situation more difficult, or contributed somehow to the upset.
Right.
Or you may only have to forgive yourself for allowing this situation to affect you for so long, for allowing it to close you down, for allowing you to be harmed by what somebody else did. Like you just may need to forgive yourself for that. So however you want to use that, that's how you use that step. All right, so how are we doing so far with the first 3 steps?
That's good.
Good? All right, good. Because now we get to step 4, which again, this is where the juice is, but it's not easy.
Okay.
So step 4 is seeing the good in the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is where you can get all kinds like, but you don't know what he did to me. You don't know what it was like. That's the first thing that might come up, right? The other thing is like you can think about like if you were truly like in a situation of abuse, as a child.
Right.
You had no way, that was completely unworkable, completely a tragedy. And you go, how could I possibly see good in that situation?
Mm-hmm.
How could I possibly do it? And so I'll just first start by saying that if that's you, if what you're going to work on forgiving is something that's that big, first of all, don't try to do this process by yourself. Please get a trusted friend, get a practitioner, get somebody to work with. And the second thing is you don't have to. It's not a requirement for you to ever see the good in something that happened to you that you're really never going to be okay with. And if you're never quote unquote okay, which again just means neutral, if you can never find a way to get to neutral, it's just going to have a toll on your physiology and on your health. And all that means is that you have to do something to ameliorate that, right? Like you have to do something else. So you don't ever have to see the good. This is just an opportunity or an option for you if you want, if you want to be able to sort of like party it up, or you want to be able to have other things going on with your health. But if you really have, like maybe you have health challenges now, and this step is just completely unthinkable to you, I'm just going to invite you to consider that compared to what you might be dealing with in your health, it's easy. Compared to that, this would be easy. And it doesn't even have to be a big good. It could be like a little good, like, and this is where the literature is so amazing. And this is where like history can be such a great teacher. My favorite book of all time, which I gotta get a copy so I can read it again this summer, is The Hiding Place by Corey Ten Boom. And other books that might be in the same genre, like, Anne Frank's, The Diary of Anne Frank, and then Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. These are all 3 books are written by people who survived the Holocaust. and, you know, just a complete tragedy, things that they totally couldn't be, there's nothing that they could have done to avoid it, and that, you know, cruelty and deplorable conditions beyond what we could ever imagine. And yet each of them have ways where they were able to find within themselves like something good about the experience they were having, and that's what saved them. Like that's what kept their humanity. That's what made them human and helped them heal and helped them go on to be like, you know, productive members of society, or, you know, whatever you want to say about that, help them get past what happened to them. And so, you know, again, it's just an invitation to see the good in whatever you've had to face, and to just know that, you know, get heard first, get heard, get someplace to express how awful it was or how terrible it was, or how, and somebody to really feel like, yeah, that should never happen to you, and I'm really sorry that it did. And I'm just going to say it now, like for anybody out there who's listening to this, who's like, no, that was awful, I'm going to say, yeah, it was. And I'm sorry that you had to go through that. You never should have had to go through that. I can't even imagine what it's like. I mean, I look at my life and I go, my life has not been that awful. I don't even know what I'm complaining about, you know, and you know, I'm sorry that happened. And once you feel complete with that and you feel heard, then I just invite you to consider that if you can find some little piece of good in whatever you've experienced and whatever's come after, whatever's come out of that terrible thing you have to go through, that there is healing there, and there is completion, and there is an opportunity for you to have better health and more freedom and more peace than you've ever experienced. And so that's step number 4. And if you've gone through that, I mean, maybe seeing the good isn't that difficult. You know, maybe you had a practice of that. You know, okay, like, yeah, it really sucked, but the good thing about that was like I learned to be independent, and I learned, you know, how to survive in terrible, horrible conditions, and I've seen how strong I am. Like, there's a lot of things you could say. Mm-hmm. But the 5th and final step of this process is feeling thankful and grateful that you had the experience. And again, this is the step that even the most awakened, enlightened of us want to like skip. We want to go like, oh yeah, it was so great that guy dumped me, because then like I met this other guy and it was great, but oh, that guy's such a jerk. I can't believe he dumped me. But it was great that I had that experience with him, because this, you know, like if I don't get to the point where whenever I think of that guy or I think of that situation, all I feel is gratitude. Like it doesn't affect me anymore. And I also feel a little bit of joy, a little bit of like, oh, that person, that angel in my life, even though, you know, without the, even though he was such a dick or whatever it is, right? Like, oh, like beautiful angel that came to this world to be so deplorable just so I could have level 10 forgiveness experience. What amazing. And that's, I mean, I'm exaggerating, but just a little bit. That's kind of how it has to be. And again, this is why every spiritual tradition has like something about forgiveness, and something about that is that it really truly is when you can move yourself. And again, this isn't like, okay, Carla said do step number 5, now I feel thankful and grateful. Oh, great. It's a process. You know, it's going to take something. But going through the process of working with these steps is really like, that's the experience. When you realize that you don't have to be ruled by what somebody else did, that your physiology, your experience, your view of the world, how you feel in a day is no longer tied to somebody else. And you can actually feel thankful and grateful that you got to have and complete this process, so that you really know that. Like, you know it at the deepest level, and you just are like, because then, you know, it starts to be like, oh my gosh, it doesn't matter what anybody does. I'm okay. Like, I can go through anything and I can be okay. Like, it may still suck, and you don't want to, we're not looking to retract that. But the thing about it is that a person that goes through their life believing that they can do anything, that they can be with anything, that they can get to the other side of any upset and anything that goes wrong, quote unquote, anything that hurts them or puts them down, and that they can get to the other side of that and just feel thankful and grateful. The power of a person that can do that is somebody who is totally different in the world than the person who never completely forgives, and now they're like, oh my gosh, who's the next person I'm not going to trust? What's the next thing that's going to happen, right? Like, you're just going to be different in the world, and your results are going to be different. And I'm not going to say bad or wrong, right? Like, you can still be the, you know, I'm just keep saying mistrust. I'm not really pointing you out, but it's just, I think probably you're not the only one watching that, you know, that has that.
Right.
But if you're acting, if you hold on to the mistrust, there may be something in that for you too. but just recognize that your experience of the world and how you be in the world and what you accomplish is going to be different than what you would experience if you completed and got to forgiveness and feeling thankful and grateful for every experience, and how you're going to be in the world that way. And it's not going to be bad or wrong. It's going to be different.
Right.
So this is where we go back to, if in your life you're stuck, if in your life you want different results, you want greater prosperity, you want a healthier body, you want a kick-ass big love relationship, this might be what you need to take on. This might be a process for you to get it. And if you're not, if you're like totally happy with where you are and life is showing up for you and you're like, this is kick-ass, and then don't do it. You don't have to do it. It's not like, and that's where we get from our spiritual traditions, our religions, dogmatic. Like, well, you have to forgive to be a good person. You have to show up here. You have to confess your sins, and you have to, if you didn't forgive, then you suck. Well, no, that's not exactly it. You might be limited. Your success, your experience of being a human might be limited, but you're not bad or wrong for it. So.
Right. And I think this is a great, like, a tool to like stick in your little energetic toolbox. So even if you don't need it right now because you're in a perfectly euphoric place, you could come back to this at another time.
Yep. And I would invite you that even if you're in perfect place and your life is going great, do it anyway. Take a minute, go into that, see what's in there. It's like if you, like I learned the Fly Lady system like a long time ago as a young mom, and it like totally saved my life because she's like little routines. And like this concept of, you never have to see dirt. Like if you just wipe your sink out every day, it'll never get dirty. You don't ever have to see it dirty. So even if you're in that place, I'm so glad you said that. Because even if you're in this place with like, yeah, I've like completed with everybody in my life, and life's great, and I have everything I want, everything I need, I would just invite you to like, well, who showed up on your list? Who's the person that you're still like, ugh?
Yeah.
And then if you have healed all those relationships on your personal level, take it out to community. Who's the politician or who's the entity that you have a racket, like we call it a racket and lemon, but like, who are you like, oh my gosh, McDonald's. Oh, I can't believe what they put on the planet, right? Like, let's do some forgiveness work on that level.
Right.
And if you're like, totally no, all businesses are great, it's good. Let's go out to the world. Like, are there governments in other countries that you're like, oh my gosh, they do genocide? Like, let's take this forgiveness process to that level and see what opens up for you. So
that's a great point.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like and if you're like me, a little bit negative and like, oh, it means our work is never done. I'm never done forgiving. It's okay. Because, again, you're not doing this because it's a should or a have to. You're doing this because you want to create something different. And just the time, like you've spent almost an hour now listening to me talk and doing this. And I hope that hasn't left you feeling like, well, that was a waste of an hour. Like now I got to go on to my next thing. I hope you feel like, wow, that's rejuvenating and I have something to do. And so I'll just invite you, what you do with your list. Now there's a couple things. One, again, if you have a practice, if you're EFT or you have, some way that you manage stress in your daily life, I invite you to take something on your list and do whatever that process is. Like I've been learning some EFT, so like an EFT, you're going to look at the person and you're going to go like, step one, I forgive them. And you're going to see what comes up, what the feeling is. Oh my gosh, I don't want to forgive them. Asshole. I really don't want to forgive them. I hate them. I can't let go. I'll let go. Okay, fine, I'll let go. Whatever it is. Even though I can't let go, like tap it out. See what comes up for you, right? If you can't get completely like zero where you're like, okay, fine, I forgive them, get with a partner, get with somebody, journaling. You could just journal this. If you have a strong journaling practice, you just putting it through a different pathway, writing out what it means to you, what the good thing was, writing over and over, I feel thankful and grateful until you feel it. That could work for you. You could do that. But what I'll invite you to do if you're watching this is that you can have a session with me and we'll go through your list, and I use remote muscle testing, and then I use neuro-emotional technique, and I use BEST, like whatever comes up, and I'll help you go through these in a way that we can get your body neutral. Now, you still might decide on the conscious level that you're going to be like pissed off about something, or you're not forgiving, or you're not going to think with happy butterflies and unicorns about this person, and that's okay. I'm concerned that on your physical level, it's not attached. It's not driving you anymore, and you're not attached. And this is the fun thing about, if on the physical level you're not attached, you might find it possible to choose different thoughts, and then you might be okay with it. Like it's a win-win either way.
Right.
So I'll just invite you to, I don't know, however Cherrise archives this, we'll put my little scheduling link up. I'll make a special link for this forgiveness workshop follow up, and just to thank you for spending this time with me. We'll get on for 30 minutes and we'll clear as much as we can on your forgiveness list.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And everybody will love the process, whether it brings tears to their eyes or not.
Right. If I don't make you, and the guarantee is if I don't make you fart or cry in that 30 minutes, then you get your money back. It's a free call. But yeah, you'll probably have some sort of release or some sort of awareness. And then, again, the invitation too is to like get a group of girlfriends together and come hang out in Arizona. I have there's a couple different options for where you can stay. There's this beautiful luxury retreat center where you can rent rooms, be like a princess in a Tuscan retreat for a weekend, and then come and work with me. Or you can stay at the Motel 6. Like we have both, like whatever your budget allows. And in the summer, it's cheap here. And if you wait and come in the fall or the winter, like then it's a bonus too, because get out of whatever weather you're in. And you can come individually and work with me, and we'll do other processes like collaging. That's the other thing I would suggest. Yeah. If there's a big situation, once you've gone through and you've journaled, make a collage, get the pictures around it out. But we do some different collaging processes. We do different, with a group, we can do these great processes where you actually tell the story in a way that it disappears. And that was really fun. So there's just a bunch of things you can do. So, again, as a special for people who are watching this, I have some packages that are going to come out on my website, like live and in person, I don't know, next month, at the end of this month. But if you know that this is something that you want to do, just schedule the free session with me and then say, hey, I want to do that. And I'm going to make it fit in your budget.
Yay.
Like you're going to do the travel, and I have to have something, because I just have to like turn the lights on and have to pay for the air conditioning.
What? Air conditioning? It's only 113 degrees.
I know, right? It's only 113 degrees. And so, and we got to block out the time, but let's create something together that gets you and the experience that you need.
That's awesome.
Sound good?
That's awesome. I hope a lot of people take advantage of it. And it's especially really cool to do it with a group of people and people that you know, like you can all support each other, and you can support each other when you get back home. If you know each other because you're from the same community, then you could kind of keep like the little girl circle going,
Absolutely.
And that little girl, but the small circle.
Oh, and I almost forgot.
Each other.
Yeah, that's an awesome. And speaking of keeping community going, I almost forgot. July 7th and 8th, I'm going to be in Chicago, and I'm offering short half-day healing intensives there. And I have VIP pricing because I started off in Chicago, and I have clients who supported me all the way through my journey through chiropractic college. So I'm going back there to serve them. And if for some reason you find yourself that you could be in Chicago those 2 days, there is a healing journey weekend that you could do. And like it's a $1,600 weekend, based on the time, but I'm offering it for $699. So I'll happily extend that to whoever's watching this as well.
Awesome. And
there's a smaller package for $399, which would be great. But if you're gonna, if you're already in Chicago, maybe you just want to do that. But if you're gonna come for the weekend, you might as well do the whole thing and really get some great care. So that you would have to schedule pretty quickly. I would say if you're watching this past June 30th, it's probably too late. But if you get in touch with me in the next couple weeks, then we can totally get you scheduled in for that and help you find some freedom through forgiveness.
So awesome. So many options.
Yeah.
So many options.
Yeah, too many. That's what the business coaches keep telling me. Too many options. But at the end of the day, there's something for everybody. So just give me a call. We'll work it out.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. And it's your website.
My website is carlagibson.com, and all of these amazing offers that I have said to you are not on there. But you can see a little bit more about me, and eventually my full offerings, all my packages and retreats for intensives and things, and my online packages. I have very few of those, very few slots left for online clients right now, but I'm happy to work with somebody who really feels like they can benefit from doing this work on a consistent basis. And all of my intensives, when you come, you get follow-up online. So it's not like you come and you sit in the hot tub and then you leave and you go back to your life. You go back to your life with support. I'll support you online with online sessions after you've come here as well. So
awesome.
Yeah.
There's no reason for anybody to be stuck in anything.
That's right. That's right. It's all possible. And yeah, It's really just amazing what we've created with, you know, if you think about like Facebook, like we created that. Like we as a people, we want to be connected so much.
Right.
Like invented this whole new possibility for connecting with people all over the world.
Yeah.
And I just think it's fabulous. So
it is. It really is, because I've met so many awesome people online through various Facebook groups and everything. So, I mean, a lot of people don't use it to that advantage, but they should.
Yeah.
Because you can meet fabulous people that, and have conversations like this, you know, I mean, everything is so connected now that there's absolutely no reason to feel like you are lost by yourself or can't get help, or if you can't travel, that you can't do something. There's so many options available.
Yeah. And I would say the one thing that comes up that I hear over and over, the only thing that holds people back is the money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can't afford it, I can't do it, or they're time poor. Like that's me. I'm like, oh gosh, I don't have time. That's, you know, why somebody's watching this at 3 a.m. now instead of joining us at 10 a.m., right? Like they're fitting in, which is great.
Right.
And so I'll just tell you that in my practice, I was blown away when one of the people that I work with on a regular basis, I after a few weeks, I checked in, like, how's it going? Like, what's going on? She goes, I feel like I have more time. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I didn't even know that was one of the benefits of working with me. But, you know, we had taken off so much of the stress around things like this, forgiveness, and just how she was, you know, things that she was encountering in her life, that when that noise, like I experience it as noise. I think other people experience it as like a wall or overwhelm or whatever, however you sense it in your body. But when we turn that down, like she was like, oh my gosh, I have more time in my life, and I'm moving from thing to thing with ease. And for her, that felt like she had more time. And, you know, the money part of it is also, you know, amazing to me. Like we can create, money is just energy. We can create that any way, and it's goes back and forth. So that's why I also offer, you know, like a free money call. If it's like, I want to work with you, but I can't afford it. Like, okay, let's get on for 30 minutes and clear some money blocks and just see what shows up.
Yeah.
Because maybe the truth is that you can't afford me because you really need something else. Because it's never a can't. It's never like a can't. It's just like, I'm not sure if this is really for you. Or all of a sudden, you know, you get open to how important this could be for your life, and you start to see like, oh, if I move this over here and I did this, and then all of a sudden, like, whatever, money drops.
Yeah.
It happened to me. Literally, like, you know, I've inherited money, people handed me money, like stuff just happens. So it's not impossible. It's just a belief. And it sounds woo, like your beliefs create your reality. You just have to think you have enough money and you'll have it. But the truth is that you will always have enough for what you think is important. And I'm determined that women start to get that they are important, that they matter, that their health matters, that how they feel matters. We have a whole conversation in this country that women are emotional and, you know, that they shouldn't feel certain ways, and it's not true. How we feel is really important. And so again, I just, you know, the invitation is open. Let's chat. Let's get all this stuff handled for you so you can go off in the world and be awesome.
Yes, because that's what we want. A bunch of awesome people.
Absolutely. Just like Cherrise.
Oh, thank you. I think you're awesome.
Thank you. Yes. And that's how I got this way, you know, like 10 years of doing this. It took work, and it took investment. It took time and money. But what really was under it all was just a commitment to, like, I know that there's more to life than just feeling tired and sick, overwhelmed, and dissatisfied. Like, I just know that there's something more out there. And as soon as I found it, I dedicated my life to making sure that other people could find it. So,
yeah, thank God.
Yeah.
That there are people, coaches, and people that like you, and all the resources out there to help everybody else.
Absolutely.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you so much. And we will be sharing this all over the place for people who couldn't watch it live because they didn't have time. So we'll make sure.
And we forgive you. Cherrise and I went through all 5 steps of forgiveness before you even came on the call.
Yeah.
We know it's perfect, and we're so thankful and grateful that we had this experience. And, you know.
And thankful and grateful that they can watch it at any point in time and that it will be useful for them.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Carla, so much.